Our today's lecture is about exercise 2.6, question number 6 and 7. On page number 52, exercise 2.6. The question number 6 is, if z is equal to 2 plus 3 iota and w is equal to 5 minus 4 iota. Show that part number 1. In part number 1, we are to show z plus w whole conjugate is equal to z conjugate plus w conjugate. It's a property of a complex number in which we take a conjugate on two numbers. This property means that if we first of all add two numbers and then take the conjugate, or if we take the conjugate of two complex number and then we add, the answer of both the questions remains same. That is, the answer of left hand side and right hand side remains same. We solve here. See how the answers are same. First of all, we write left hand side. What is left hand side? Here we see the left hand side is z plus w whole conjugate. First of all, we have left hand side, which is z plus w whole conjugate. We write the value of z. What is the value of z? Here we see the value of z is 2 plus 3 iota. And what is the value of w? The value of w is 5 minus 4 iota. We write, instead of z 2 plus 3 iota, instead of w 5 minus 4 iota. 2 plus 3 iota plus what is w? 5 minus 4 iota. And there is a conjugate on whole the value. Now we add these terms. How we add? We add real term with the real term, that is, when 2 is added with 5 it becomes 7, and we subtract 3 from 4, we get negative iota, and there is a conjugate sign upon it. Now we write it in a simplest form. We take conjugate. What we do in conjugate? We change the sign of iota. What is the sign of iota? That is negative. We change it into positive. This is our required first equation, which is our left hand side. Again, here we add z with w. Here we write the value of z, and here we write the value of w. First of all, we add real part with the real part. Here real part is 2 and 5. When we add 2 by 5, we get 7. Then we add positive 3 with negative 4, we get negative iota. We get negative iota. Clear? And then after simplification, we take the conjugate. In conjugate, we change the sign of iota. Now we solve the right hand side. Right hand side is z conjugate plus w conjugate. What is the value of z? The value of z is 2 plus 3 iota whole conjugate. What is the value of w? 5 minus 4 iota whole conjugate. Here we first of all take the conjugate of the number. What is the conjugate of 2 plus 3 iota? The conjugate of 2 plus 3 iota is 2 minus 3 iota. That is, we change the sign of iota. What is the conjugate of 5 minus 4 iota? The conjugate of 5 minus 4 iota is 5 plus 4 iota. Now we add real term with the real term, that is 2 plus 5 becomes 7, and imaginary term is imaginary term, that is iota. We get equation 2. Now from 1 and 2, from equation 1 and 2, we see that both the answers are same. that is left hand side is equal to right hand side. Moreover, z plus w whole conjugate is equal to z conjugate plus w conjugate, which is our required answer. Now we move on the next part, part number 3, because part number 2 is same as that of the part number 1. Now we move on the next part, which is part number 3 of the question number 6. Part number 3 is ZW conjugate means Z multiply by W conjugate. When multiply Z with W and taking conjugate, it is equal to Z conjugate into W conjugate. First of all, we take the conjugate and then we multiply both the numbers. Here we have, first of all, we write left hand side. What is left hand side? Left hand side is Z W whole conjugate. First of all, we write the value of Z. What is the value of Z? The value of Z is 2 plus 3 iota. What is the value of W? 5 minus 4 iota. And there is a conjugate on whole term. Now, multiplying these terms, we have 2 into 5 minus 4 iota plus 3 iota into 5 minus 4 iota. And there is a conjugate on whole the term. Now multiply 2 with 5, it becomes 10, 2 with 4 iota, it becomes 8 iota, it becomes 15 iota, it becomes 12 iota square. Now after simplification, we get 10 plus 7 iota, because 15 iota minus 8 iota. This 15 iota and this minus 8 iota becomes 7 iota. And what is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. Taking conjugate, now after more simplification, 10 plus 7 iota, positive 12 whole conjugate. On the next page, we see that 10 plus 12 becomes 22 plus 7 iota conjugate. After taking conjugate, we get 22 negative 7 iota, which we called equation number 1. Now we write its right hand side. What is its right hand side? Its right hand side is Z conjugate W conjugate. What is the value of Z? The value of Z is 2 plus 3 iota conjugate. And what is the value of W? The value of W is 5 minus 4 iota conjugate. Now first of all, take the conjugate and then multiply, because conjugate are separately on the terms Z and on the terms W. We get 2 minus 3 iota. First of all, we take the conjugate of Z. Now we get 5 plus 4 iota. We take the conjugate of W. Now multiply these terms. We multiply here 2 with 5 plus 4 iota and negative 3 iota with 5 plus 4 iota. Multiply it. 2 multiplied by 5 becomes 10. 2 multiplied by 4 becomes 8 iota. Negative 15 iota and negative 12 iota square. It's simple multiplication that we done in previous questions. Now after more simplification, we get 10 negative 7 iota, because negative 15 iota plus 8 iota becomes negative 17 iota, 7 iota. And what is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. Now simplify it more. We get 10 negative 7 iota plus 12. We get 10 negative 7 iota plus 12, because this negative 1 when multiply negative 12 it becomes positive 12. After simplification, we get 22 minus 7 iota, which we called equation number 2. From 1 and 2, from previous equation 1 and this equation 2. In previous equation, we see what is the result. The result is 22 minus 7 iota. In the next equation number 2, what is the result? 22 minus 7 iota. Both the result are same, that is left hand side of the equation is equal to right hand side of the equation. Moreover, that is Z W whole conjugate is equal to Z conjugate into W conjugate, which is our required answer. Now we move on the next part. The next part is the part number 4, in which the two complex number written in divisible form. Yes, what's the question? Ahmed Iqbal,
Hello, sir. Hello.
why are you raising your hand?
हेलो
Yes, yes, Ahmed Iqbal.
सर ये पिछला वाला जो था ना ये राइट हैंड साइड और ये लेफ्ट हैंड साइड ये पिछला वाला समझ नहीं आया
Previous right hand side and left hand side.
जी सर ये पिछली वाले स्लाइड है ये सर दिखा है ना
Ahmed Iqbal, you are in previous, you attend the previous lectures?
जी सर सर ये जो नहीं है ये 10 + 8 आयोटा -15 आयोटा -12 आयोटा का स्क्वायर तो सर ये आयोटा का स्क्वायर नहीं ऐड होता
Again, repeat the question.
सर ये जो 10 + 8 आयोटा -15
Yes.
आयोटा ये जो फिर 12 आयोटा का स्क्वायर है तो ये ऐड नहीं होता
No, no. अयोटा अयोटा टर्म जो अलग टर्म होती है, अयोटा स्क्वायर की टर्म अलग टर्म होती है. Here we only add 8 iota with 15 iota. That if these terms are subtract, then we subtract. Not with the 12 iota square, because we know that the iota square is equal to -1. Instead of iota square, we write in next step -1. It becomes a constant term, and after it we simplify it and solve the question. Okay. Okay. Now we move on the next question. The question number 6, part number 4. Question number 6, part number 4, we see that z our w whole conjugate is equal to z conjugate our w conjugate. That is, we solve for the left hand side, and left hand side is z our w whole conjugate. What is z? The value of z is 2 plus 3 iota. Value of w is 5 minus 4 iota. There is a conjugate on whole. Ahmed Iqbal, what's the question? Ahmed Iqbal,
यस सर
what's your question?
मेरे तो कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है वो मेरा ख्याल से वो हैंड ऊपर ही रह गया
Okay, okay. For left hand side, z over w whole conjugate, we write the value of z and write the value of w. We know that when the complex number is in divisible form, we multiply it with its conjugate and divide with its conjugate. Here the next step is 2 plus 3 iota. Our 5 minus 4 iota, we multiply it with 5 plus 4 iota and dividing it with by 5 plus 4 iota. This process is called a rationalization process. In rationalization process, we multiply and divide by the conjugate of the denominator. Now we multiply it. We multiply it here for our simplification. 2 is multiply 5, it becomes 10. When 2 is multiply 4 iota, it becomes 8 iota. When 3 is multiply 5 iota, it becomes 15 iota. When 3 is multiply 4, it becomes 12 and iota becomes iota square. In denominator, we see the formula. Which formula? A minus b and a plus b. Therefore, the formula becomes a square minus b square. Now after simplification, 10 plus 23 iota, 10 plus 23 iota and 12 iota square. Instead of iota square, we write -1. What is the square of 5? The square of 5 is 25. 16 iota square. After more simplification, 10 plus 23 iota, -12 divided by 25 plus 16. Here we directly replace iota square by -1, and instead of -16 into -1, we directly write its positive 16. In next step, we see when we subtract 12 from 10, we get -2 plus 23 iota. And what is in denominator? In denominator we have 41. This is our equation number 1. Okay, now we solve for the right hand side. Right hand side is right hand side right hand side is we solve it for z conjugate our w conjugate. First of all, we write the value of z. The value of z is 2 plus 3 iota conjugate, and in divisible form we have 5 negative 4 iota conjugate. First of all, we take the conjugates and then we divide both the numbers. Conjugate of 2 plus 3 iota becomes 2 minus 3 iota. Conjugate of 5 plus 4, 5 minus 4 iota, 5 plus 4 iota. Now we see the two complex number are in divisible form. We multiply and divide it by its conjugate. Here we multiply and divide it by its conjugate. We multiply it by 5 minus 4 iota and divide it by 5 minus 4 iota. Now after simplification we get when 2 is multiply 5 it becomes 10. When 2 is multiply minus 4 iota it becomes 8 iota. When negative 3 is multiply 5 it becomes 15 iota. When negative 3 is multiply negative 4 iota it becomes positive 12 iota square. In denominator we have a formula. Which formula? A square minus b square. After simplification we see here what we get. After simplification we get 10 negative 23 iota positive 12 into negative 1. In denominator form we have 25 negative 16 iota square. Similarly 10 23 iota negative 12, and in denominator we directly replace by negative 16 by positive 16 because iota square is equal to negative 1. Now after more simplification, when 12 is subtracted from 10 we get negative 2 negative 23 iota. In denominator we have 41. This is our equation number 2. From 1 and 2, what we see from 1 and 2? We see from 1 and 2 that left hand side is equal to right hand side, because if we see the first equation first equation is negative 2 plus 23 iota, no, in equation number 1 we uh, doesn't take the conjugate on whole. Here we take the conjugate, again here we take the conjugate, here we take the conjugate. When we take here conjugate we get here negative instead of positive. Okay, the next step is here we have negative instead of positive, that is in equation number 1 we get here negative 2 negative 23 iota, negative 2 negative 23 iota. Here we replace, here we get negative 2 negative 23 iota. From 1 and 2 we see the left hand side is equal to right hand side, that is z our w whole conjugate is equal to z conjugate our w conjugate. It's clear to everyone? Please raise your hand. Is there any question? Okay, now we move on the next question. The next question is part number 5. Yes, what's the question? Okay, question number 6, part number 5. Part number 5 is 1 by 2 z plus z conjugate is real part of z. Here we are to solve or show that 1 by 2 z plus z conjugate is the real part of z. That is, when we solve, what is the value of z? Value of z is 2 plus 3 iota. The value of z is 2 plus 3 iota. What is its real part? Its real part is 2 and its imaginary part is 3. In question The question is, show that 1 by 2 z plus z conjugate is real part of z. When we solve 1 by 2 z plus z conjugate, we get the answer 2, which is the real part of a complex number z. Okay, which is the real part of a complex number z. Now we solve for the complex number. First of all, we take here 1 by 2 z plus z conjugate. Now replace the value of z and z conjugate. What is the value of z? The value of z is 2 plus 3 iota plus. What is the value of z conjugate? The value of z conjugate is 2 minus 3 iota. Here we see that plus 3 iota and minus 3 iota cancel with each other. Both the terms are cancelled with each other. Now we left, what we left? 1 by 2. What is 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2 becomes 4. After more simplification we get 2. After more simplification or cancellation, 2 1 times 2, 2, 2 times 4. We get 2. Here we see that 2 is real part of z. 2 is real part of z. Now we move on the next part number 6. Same in part number 6, we are to show that question number 6, part number 6. In part number 6, we are to show that 1 by 2 iota z minus z conjugate is the imaginary part of z. It's imaginary part of z. Imaginary part of z is 3. We are to solve this for the answer 3. We write here 2 iota z minus z conjugate. 1 by 2 iota, what is the value of z? The value of z is 2 plus 3 iota. Negative, what is the value of z conjugate? The value of z conjugate is 2 minus 3 iota. Now when we multiply negative with the bracket, that is 2 plus 3 iota. When we multiply negative, we get negative 2 plus 3 iota. Here we see that positive 2 is cancelled with negative 2. We get 1 by 2 iota. 3 iota and 3 iota becomes 6 iota. When iota is cancelled with iota, 2 is cancelled with 6. On table 3, we get 3, which is imaginary part of complex number z. Now raise your hand. What's the question? Is there any problem in these questions? Please raise your hand. Otherwise, we move on the question number 6.
Sir,
Yes,
the part number 4 कैसे करें?
Sahil Khan.
Sir, it's a bit difficult, sir.
I didn't hear your voice. Please
Sir, it's a
speak
bit
loudly.
difficult. It's a bit difficult, sir.
Sir, part number 4.
It's a bit difficult.
Yes, sir.
No, it's not difficult because you see in the previous question, we only solve this. Arshan, we explain these two parts again. See here, in this question, we only show that the answer of the given above this expression, 1 by 2 z plus z conjugate is the real part of z. You see in the question, what is the real part of z? Here we tick the real part of z, that is 2. It means answer of this question becomes 2. Answer of this question becomes 2. Here we write this term. We write here this term, and instead of z and z conjugate we replace value. What is z? Z is 2 plus 3 iota, and what is z conjugate? Z conjugate is 2 minus 3 iota, because we change the sign of iota. Here we replace the value of z and z conjugate. After this we see that positive 3 iota and negative 3 iota cancel with each other. We get positive 2, positive 2. Positive 2 and positive 2 becomes 4. After cancellation we get the answer, and we see this answer is same as the answer of the real part of complex number 2. Here we write the
Yes.
real part of complex.
Yes, sir. No
Yes?
problem. Now I understand, sir.
Okay. In the next part same we similarly solve, but there is a negative sign in between. Muhammad Abdullah.
सर वो सर पीआईक में एक स्लाइड पीछे करिएगा.
This one?
यस सर. सर ये सोल्यूशन के बाद जो वैल्यू है z इज इक्वल टू 2 प्लस 3 आयोटा, ये गिवन होगी क्वेश्चन में.
जैसे ये गिवन होगी, ये आप जब क्वेश्चन देखेंगे आपके गिवन क्वेश्चन में बिल्कुल ऊपर गिवन है, z और
ठीक
w
है
की
सर.
वैल्यू गिवन है ऑन पेज नंबर 52 क्वेश्चन नंबर 6. इफ z is equal to 2 plus 3 iota and w is equal to 5 minus 4 iota, this z and this w is for all the parts, for part number 1, for part number 2, for part number, this is the given value for you. Okay,
ओके सर.
now we move on to next question, the question number 7.
Sir, part 4.
Question number 7 is very important question, and page number 53, question number 7. Question number 7, part number 1. Here question number 7 is solve the following. We are to solve the following for x and y. For the value of x and y, we are to solve 2 negative 3 iota x plus y iota is equal to 4 plus iota. We are to solve for the value of x and y. The given statement is solve for the values of x and y, and the given question is 2 negative 3 iota. Here there is no sign in between two brackets, which means these two brackets are multiplied with each other. 2 minus 3 iota bracket x plus y iota is equal to 4 plus iota. First of all, in this question we see that in left hand side we have two complex number which are multiplied with each other. We write x plus y iota is equal to 4 plus iota. Here in left hand side 2 plus 3 iota is multiplied with x plus y iota. When we take it on the right hand side, it divide with 4 plus iota. Clear? As simple algebra, on the left hand side this number is multiplied with the x plus 5 iota. When we take it on the right hand side, it divide with the 4 plus iota. Now we know that when the two numbers, complex numbers, are written in divisible form, that is one is in numerator and another is in denominator, what we do, we multiply and divide by its conjugate. We multiply and divide by its conjugate. Here we write x plus y iota. When iota multiply by 2 it becomes 2 iota. When iota multiply by 3 iota it becomes 3 iota square. After dividing, here we see the formula a minus b, a plus b, that is a square minus b square. A square minus b square. Now on the next slide we get x plus y iota is equal to 8 plus 14 iota. 8 plus 14 iota, because this 12 iota and 2 iota added to each other we get 14 iota. And next we have plus 3. What is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. In denominator we see that square of 2 is 4, square of 2 is 4, and square of 3 is 9, and iota square. Now in the next step we see x plus y iota is equal to 8 plus 14 iota negative 3 hour. In denominator, instead of we write iota square by minus 1, we directly write it by positive 9, because when we multiply minus 1 with negative 9, we get positive 9. X plus y iota, when we subtract 3 from 8, we get 5 plus 14 iota. When we add 4 by 9, it becomes 13. After more simplification, we see here we get 5 by 13 plus 14 by 13 iota. On the left hand side, we see the real part. Real part is x. On the right hand side, we see the real part. Real part is 5 by 13. In the given statement, these two complex numbers are equal to each other, which means that real part is equal to real part, imaginary part is equal to imaginary part. Therefore, x is equal to 5 by 13, which is our required answer, and y is equal to 14 by 13, which is our required answer. X is equal to 5 by 13, that is, we placed real part with the real part and imaginary part with the imaginary part, because both the complex numbers are equal. Yes, what's the question? Muhammad Abdullah. Muhammad Abdullah. Muhammad Abdullah.
सर ये जो है स्टेप ऐसा है x प्लस वाई आयोटा इज इक्वल टू 8 प्लस 14 आयोटा प्लस 3। सर जो फर्स्ट स्टेप है ये,
जी
इसमें
जी।
क्या करना है ये सर से समझ नहीं आया।
अब इसमें मैंने सिंपली ये जो पिछला स्टेप था इसको सिंप्लीफाई किया। Here you see, first of all write here 8, 12 iota and 2 iota becomes 14 iota.
यस
Here 3, and instead of iota square we only write negative 1. 8, 12 iota plus 2 iota becomes 14 iota. Instead of iota square we write only negative 1. And then in denominator, what is the square of 2? The square of 2 is 4. What is the square of 3? Square of 3 is 9. What is the square of iota? Square of iota is iota square. Here you see, we write 4, 9 and iota square. After this, we more simplify it. 8 as it is, 14 iota as it is. When 3 is multiplied with negative 1, it becomes negative 3. 4 as it is. Here you see that we have negative 9 iota square. Negative 9 iota square is negative 1. Negative 9 multiplied negative 1 becomes positive 9. Instead of negative 9 iota square, we directly write positive 9. Now, when we subtract 3 from 8, we get 5, and 14 iota similar as it is, we write here. What is 4 plus 9? It becomes 13. After we dividing 13 by real and imaginary both the parts, we get 5 by 13 and 14 by 13. We equate real part with the real part and imaginary part with the imaginary part. Clear?
यस सर आगे सर।
Okay. Now we move on the next part. The next part is we have the next part number 3 of the question number 7, last part of the day and last part of the exercise, last part of the chapter number 2, plus y iota. In this question we see here that 3 plus 4 iota square negative 2x minus y iota is equal to x plus y iota. In this question we see here the first complex number we have contains square, and second complex number is subtracted from first complex number is equal to x plus y iota. We write 3 plus 4 iota whole square same as it is equal to. When we shift this term to the right hand side, this term is negative in the left hand side. When it shifts to the right hand side, it becomes positive. Now first of all we write x plus y iota same of the right hand side, and we write 2 positive 2 x minus y iota, because on the left hand side this term is negative, when it moves on the right hand side it becomes positive. Now here we take the square by formula a square plus b square plus 2ab. This formula you study in standard 8. Formula is, what formula is you study in the standard 8? Formula here we used a plus b, a plus b whole square, which is equal to
Square.
a square
A square B
b
square plus
2ab.
2AB.
Okay, clear?
Ji
Now
sir. Clear.
after this we simplify right hand side. Right hand side is x plus y iota. When we multiply 2 with x it becomes 2x. When we multiply 2 with y iota it becomes 2y iota. Now simplify it more. What is the square of 3? The square of 3 is 9. What is the square of 4 iota? Square of 4 iota is 16 iota square, because square of 4 is 16 and square of iota is iota square. Now multiply these three terms. After multiply these three terms we get 24 iota, because when we multiply 2 with 3 it becomes 6. When we multiply 6 with 4 it becomes 24 iota. On the right hand side we simplify it. When we add x with 2x it becomes 3x. When we subtract 2y iota from y iota we get only y iota. After more simplification we see here what is the value of iota square. The value of iota square is -1. Therefore we get -16 plus 24 iota, and we get 3 minus 5 iota. Now when we subtract 16 from 9 we get -7, and 24 iota is equal to 3x minus y iota. On the next slide we again write -7 plus 24 iota, -7 plus 24 iota is equal to 3x negative y iota, is equal to 3x negative y iota. Here we see that if we equate the real part with the real part, what is the real part on the left hand side? Real part is -7. What is the real part on the right hand side? Real part is 3x. We equate real part with the real part, that is -7 is equal to 3x, and imaginary part with the imaginary part, that is 24 is equal to -y. 24 is equal to -y. Now simplify it. What we do in the simplification? We take 3 on the denominator of -7, we get the value of x, and we take the negative sign on the other side, we get the value of y. Therefore we get our required answer. Is there any question? Please raise your hand, because we have left only 1 minute. Is there any problem? Please raise your hand. Yes, Muhammad Abdullah.
सर वो पिछली
Muhammad
स्लाइड
Abdullah,
में, सर पिछली स्लाइड में।
previous slide. In previous slide,
सर ये सेकंड स्टेप, थर्ड थर्ड जो स्टेप है
ये सेकंड स्टेप था. इस
सर
सेकंड
इज
स्टेप में
इक्वल टू
हमने
के बाद सर ये जो
स्क्वायर वाला
3x
फार्मूला ओपन किया. Okay, okay. Here we have, see, here we have x plus y iota. Here we write x plus y iota. When 2 is multiplied with x and y iota, we get 2x minus 2y iota. Now the similar terms are x and 2x. We add these terms, we get 3x. And similar terms are y iota and 2y iota. When we subtract 2y iota from y iota, we get only negative y iota. Okay. After
सर
more simplification, yes.
सर ये जो 9 प्लस 16 आयोटा का स्क्वायर है सर, ये निचले स्टेप में नहीं
9 plus 16 iota.
सर, ये नीचे
Which
आपने
step?
इसको क्या वो सिंपलीफाई कर दिया और
Which step?
सर ये सेकंड
Yes,
हाफ
yes, we simplify it.
ये 3
Here,
प्लस 4 आयोटा
iota,
सर, ये
here,
लहदा किस तरह होंगे?
iota square is negative 1. Iota square is negative 1. We write it's negative 16 because iota square is negative 1. When negative 1 is multiplied 16, it becomes negative 16. And after
अच्छा
simplification, negative 16 and 9, we have negative 7.
ओके सर
Okay.
यस
And on next step, we equate real part with
हम
the
on
real part
time
and
पे
imaginary part with imaginary. Okay. The time of the lecture is over. Inshallah, we meet next on the next Monday. Inshallah.